Yo, this is Bench Gamer here. So there has been a lot of talk about power creep in Honkai Star for quite a while now. It started all the way back before Penacony released. There was Dan Hun, he was a big power creep. A lot of people were doom posting about power creep back then, and then Remy came out, and then everybody was doom posting about her. And then Akron came out, and everybody was doom posting about her. And then Firefly came out, and I feel like Firefly was really like the peak of the doom posting about power creep because she got something that nobody else did, which was an entire new gameplay style just that was all just for her. It was Super Break, right? She had an entire team all just for her. She got Harmony MC, who obviously was meant for Firefly, and then we got Gallagher, also another Firefly buffer. And then we have Lingsha most recently in the new Shinjo arc. We got Lingsha, Super Break buffer, and now we're getting the new version of Tingling Fugue, also another Super Break buffer. And it just seems like everything is just revolving around Super Break. So everybody was getting tired of it. And we've all been talking about how tired we are about Super Break. But on the naysayer side, one of the things that has been said a lot about Super Break is that it's actually really, really easy to nerf Super Break. It's just that the most obvious way of nerfing Super Break is also one of the worst things they could possibly do when it comes to the meta and the way that the game is moving forward in the direction that it is regarding power creep. The way that they can obviously nerf Super Break is to just not give enemies a break mechanic. It's really that easy, right? We already have that one giant robot enemy in Shinjo Lofu, right? The one that goes immune to break. You know what I'm talking about? The guy with the giant stick that like rams you all the time. I think it's got imaginary weakness or something. You just need to put that on every single enemy, and then Super Break is completely useless. But they wouldn't do that, right? They wouldn't just give us an entire archetype of gameplay and say, no, you can't do that anymore. You can't use this entire archetype of gameplay in the new enemies, at least not for an entire year. Like, okay, an entire year, and then they can take their gloves off. That was my initial impression of Super Break. They wouldn't immediately nerf Super Break just after releasing it, at least for an entire year. 1 year, and then we can talk about new enemy types. But according to recent rumors, it's not really a year, it's more like a couple of months. So this is the 3.1 Apocalyptic Shadow Hule. And as you can see, as you have probably already read before I finish saying what I'm about to say, it says that Hule's weakness is permanently protected. And I'm not totally sure what this means, but it's looking like it just doesn't have a weakness anymore. That is the implication of this line. Hule's weakness is permanently protected. What else could it mean? It probably means that he just doesn't break. And that's fucking scary because we've all talked about how bad power creep is getting in Honkai Star Rail, and just completely delegitimizing an entire archetype of gameplay that they have introduced in a recent patch, in the most recent zone, right? The Super Break is the new archetype that you can play with. It's not Akron. Akron was like a riff off of like debuffs. Super Break is really the only new archetype of gameplay that they introduced in Penacony. So does that mean that the new archetype that they introduced, the Remembrance Path that they introduced in Amphorius, is that going to be completely nerfed with by delegitimizing the entire playstyle in like the next region? Is the next region going to have enemies that do like 200% damage to the new summons that you're getting in the Remembrance Path? Like, because it's really that easy to just nerf Remembrance. You just say, well, your summons do less damage, and your summons take 200% damage, and every single new enemy does AoE damage, so it doesn't matter who you hit. They always hit your Remembrance summons, and then your Remembrance summon meta is dead. And we all know that this is going to happen in Honkai Star Rail no matter what, eventually. But that eventually was supposed to be like a year or 2 year later. Not you just invested your entire life saving into the Superfly, not Superfly, Firefly break meta, and now your money is completely wasted because you just got an entire enemy that is completely immune to break. Like, what the fuck? Like, what are you supposed to do then? And it really is just that easy to destroy the Super Break meta. You just say enemies don't break anymore. In the future, they can do the same thing with Super Follow-Up. I'm sure they will do something similar in the future. They can just say, okay, there's a Super Follow-Up character now. This Super Follow-Up character does like 2 extra attacks if it follows a follow-up attack of another character. And only this Super Follow-Up character can do that. But In the next region, we have an enemy where if you do a follow-up damage, then the enemy will also do a follow-up attack that does 300% damage, and your characters are just dead. It's not very hard to nerf things in turn-based games. It's not that I dislike turn-based games. It's just that the way that they handle power creep in turn-based games is very numbers-based. It is very like specific. It's almost like a rock paper scissors game. It is almost entirely a rock paper scissors game, which is not to say that that's not the case in Genshin Impact and Zenless as well. There's elemental weaknesses, there's elemental reactions. Certain ones are better against others, but there's always the fact that you can just play a little bit better. If you don't have all the Eidolons, if you don't have all the constellations or whatever they're called, mindscapes, you can just play a little bit better, and with some luck, you can get through the hardest content, or at least hardest content in terms of all the primo gems and polychromes you're getting. You can do it as a free to play, but in Honkai Star, it sort of feels like if you just don't have this future knowledge, if you don't have the future knowledge to know that Super Break meta is coming to an end very harshly in a couple of months, and you have invested everything as a free to play player into Firefly, then aren't you just screwed? It feels bad. And I'm starting to feel like Honkai Star is the one Hoyoverse game that I don't feel like it's not good to spend money on this game because your money is not worth very much. You are still spending the same amount of money as you would in Genshin Impact or Zenless Zone Zero, but I feel like the amount of money you spend in those games are going to carry you a lot farther into the future than Honkai Star. In Honkai Star, if you spend money in this game, your team can just be completely invalidated in a couple of months. And that's where I'm at in Honkai Star. I was very excited to actually spend money on Fugue, to be honest, but now that I'm saying this is probably why they don't want leaks getting out. I'm very against story-based leaks, but this type of stuff, it sucks to be a Firefly player, I guess. At least if you plan on using Firefly against this boss. But who knows? Maybe in the future they'll add this type of mechanic. Weakness is permanently protected. It could mean something else, but what else could it mean? Except you just don't have a weakness break mechanic anymore. This is Benchgamer signing out. I'm kind of ranting at this point, and if it does turn out that this is just a permanent weakness immunity mechanic, I really do feel like Honkai Star is going down the wrong path. This is Benchgamer signing out. I'll see you guys later.